The junta nations did the unthinkable. So guys, after leaving ECOWAS, the junta nations, which is made up of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, have come up to pursue a common currency. Don't forget that the reason for quitting ECOWAS is because they said they don't like the way West Africa is parlaying with the West. Possibly they are not happy with the Nigerian president, who is now closely relating with France. The junta nations feel this is a very big betrayal for them, and this is one of the reasons why they are quitting ECOWAS. Listen to this.
Considering the current suspended state of these three Sahel countries and the non-fulfillment of their financial responsibilities and other obligations to the regional body since their suspension, it is not clear if they have a right to withdraw from the regional body. The only Arab-speaking member of the body, Mauritania, that pulled out in year 2000, followed this procedure laid out in the treaty. For countries that are currently under suspension by ECOWAS, they are Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
Conflict. In northern Mali, the country is divided de facto into two. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, 120 armed groups, yet it is the busiest airspace in the continent of Africa. Minerals are being taken away to Europe and America. Central African Republic, the same. Libya, the same. Several months ago, I wrote to the chair of the African Union and all African heads of state and said, convene a meeting with only one agenda item. What can we do to save Africa from this slide? Only 4 replied. That is the state of the continent of Africa. We must deal with the basic things. We must solve conflict. We must change our governance. Because if we don't deal with the question of governance, we are going nowhere. Africa has become a continent where after every election there is conflict. Because the pursuit of power is the cutthroat competition where throats are actually cut. And when the SMO was here and he consulted the oracles, he discovered that we have a problem in that direction. And that the sooner we resolve that, the safer we will be. Africa can rise and Africa will rise. But it's not going to rise by prayer and fasting. We must pray and fast, but it will not happen. Because the last time I checked, even those of you are believers, when Abraham was taken from Ur of the Chaldeans and given Canaan, it was not on a silver platter. He had to fight the Canaanites. He had to fight the Philistines. That is the nature of divine instruction. Go ye and subdue the world by the sweat of thy brow. The kitchen where they make manna was closed. Manna will no longer come. Because you must now make your manna. And it is our duty, therefore, as Africans to begin to rethink the younger generation. You know, there is a saying in Chichewa in Malawi that more precious than our children are our children's children. So when we are doing these things, we must remind ourselves that we are doing for this generation and generations yet to be born. So we are re-educated. We who are present here are part of the danger to Africa. Because even in our unguarded moments, I went several years ago to the university at Harvard and talking to students, and one of them said that Harvard was the best school in law, in teaching of law. I said, whose law? Nigerian law? Ugandan law? Zimbabwean law? They can only be best in teaching their law, not ours. And I've seen we who are in this space of education, somebody spends 6 years at Unilag, and when they go to Harvard or Stanford for 3 weeks for a short course where they spend most of the time taking tea, he comes back and says, an alumni of Harvard. So the time is now. The time is now to begin re-educating ourselves. The time is now to exercise the ghost of low self-esteem. You know, Africa has many things. We have talked about our mineral resources. We've talked about our arable land. We have talked about many things, but from where I sit, the greatest African resource is the human resource. You know, Africa has been so wronged by other civilizations. We were the enablers of the first industrial revolution. When our ancestors were taken to work in the farms in Europe, we enabled that revolution. Right now, we are enabling the fourth industrial revolution and the fifth industrial revolution. That is why they have talent visas, because they are taking our talent. If it is not nurses, it is our IT gurus. If it is not our IT gurus, it is our engineers. And we are gleefully letting them away. I see our heads of state saying, we have signed a contract to take our workers to Saudi Arabia, modern day slavery. And you know, just this morning, my wife sent me a proverb from Turkey that when you elect a clown and you think that he will be a king, what he does is to convert the kingdom into a circus. And I am suggesting to us that that is part of the African problem, because it starts with political hygiene. Most of Africa is suffering because we do not have democracies. We have kakistocracies. And kakistocracies are governments by our very worst. This is what we must deal with, and this is what we must say. Who do we elect into our public offices? Because, as I've said before, when you allow hyenas to take care of goats, why should you be surprised when the goats are eaten? This is the same. And Africa is only going to realize our potential in all areas when, by dint of choice, we enable and allow our best men and women to serve in different areas. I've heard it being said about Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore. I've heard it being suggested about Mahathir Mohamad in Malaysia. I've heard it being said about Japan. I've heard it being said about other countries. But there was a conscious decision on the part of those individuals and the followership. We always talk about leaders, but we never talk about the followers. The followers must also style up. Africans on average are for some reason attracted to thieves. Africans are for some reason attracted to men and women who cannot serve her. And when they are not served, then they complain. When Africans are told, choose you now whom we shall release, Jesus of Nazareth or Barabbas, they say, release Barabbas. And when Barabbas behaves like Barabbas, they say, why are you not behaving like Christ? It cannot be done. And this is what we must do. And I am submitting to us that it can be done and it should be done. I know a number of African countries, and I travel this continent sufficiently to know that there are African countries that are doing well. They are trying. There is no nation without trials and tribulation. We are fond of talking about the United States of America as an exemplar of that which is good and bad. When they said in 1776 that they held certain truths to be self-evident, that all men were born equal, that they were endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable right, that among those who are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, were blacks included? No, they were not. Did they not fight a civil war? Yes, they did. Are they not frustrating people until 1963? Did George Floyd, was he not killed only recently? There is not a single nation without trials and tribulation. And we must therefore remind ourselves that we have the wherewithal to catapult Africa into a different orbit.
So guys, the ECOWAS countries didn't see this coming, you know. They didn't know that these junta nations will be very, very bold in taking these steps they've taken. So they are not backing back, you know. They are tired of the West They want to regain their freedom. They want to be in charge of, their mineral resources. They want to be in charge of their countries, and they are not happy with the way the West Africa is embracing the West. Also, the sanction that was given to these countries by ECOWAS, has really hit them hard, but they are not giving up because of those sanctions. Like we all know, Niger is suffering from electricity because Nigeria has cut off power from them. Nigeria supplies them with power, but that has been taken off the table. Also, they have their children who do not go to school, possibly because they do not have the funds or the assistance from the West. But those things are not making them to give up. They are determined, they want to be free, and they want to be the ones who are in charge of their nations. Although they've extended hands of friendship to Russia and also to China, and they are saying no to the United States of America and no to France. Who knows where this is going to lead them to? We keep our hands crossed as we keep watching how all this unfolds. But let's be truthful to ourselves. It is time for an Africa to arise and be mature. Africa should no longer be a child. Africa is big enough to be responsible of itself. Africa is mature enough to take care of its needs. It is time for us to reduce our dependence on the West because they put pressure on us to do the things that do not suit our people. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. Thank you.